Everybody is looking for the fastest way to get unstuck. If you know you're here for a greater reason, but you just can't seem to find clarity and progression, then you want to stay tuned into this entire episode.
Welcome to the Purpose Project, the podcast that elevates your journey to self-discovery and success. Each week, we dive into the transformative power of purpose across three key pillars: performance and achievement, career transitions, and personal transformation. The Purpose Project is not just a podcast, it's your weekly dose of inspiration and guidance. Join us every week as we unravel the secrets of purpose-driven living and follow the show as we embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation so you can live your life on purpose, not default. Here's your host, author, speaker, purpose coach, and consultant, Jay Purpose.
Hey, what is going on, good people? My name is Jay Purpose, and welcome to the very first episode of the Purpose Project. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the first segment called Words of Wisdom. I am a quote junkie, and I absolutely love positivity, optimism, and a good time. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the very first quote of this podcast. That quote is, if you're not actively pursuing your dreams, then you're passively empowering your limitations. That quote comes from Dale Bronner. All right, look, so that's a really quick breakdown of what I think about that quote, man. I think it is absolutely and unequivocally powerful. If you're not actively pursuing your dreams, then you are passively empowering your limitations. All right, look, I used to think that everything was black and white, but just recently I realized almost everything exists on a spectrum, and most things are not black and white, especially the things that are pertaining to our character, our internal selves, who we really are. So check this out. You may be thinking like, maybe I'm taking a pause, maybe I'm taking a break, and you're not actively pursuing what it is that you want to achieve in your life. Here's the truth of the matter. When I say there's no black and white, what I mean is, it's not, I'm either actively pursuing my dreams or I'm not actively pursuing my dreams. There's two ends to the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, you are actively pursuing your dreams. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you are not actively pursuing your dreams. There's something going on there as well. And what's going on that other end of the spectrum where we don't want to be at is you are passively empowering all the limitations, all the things that are holding you back from becoming who it is that you want to be. And a lot of things exist on spectrums just like that. Your motivation, your drive, your identity, your vision, your purpose. So many things in our lives, especially the things that are internal, exist on a spectrum, and they're not black and white. It's not an on and off switch. It's not a I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it. It's I'm doing it and I'm getting this particular result, or else I'm not doing it and I'm getting this opposite result that I do not want, that is working against me. As a matter of fact, it makes me think of the book called The Slight Edge. That is one of the best books I have ever read. If you're a personal development junkie, kind of like I am, you want to check out that book, The Slight Edge. Trust me, if you haven't read it yet. It was first recommended to me by somebody when I was first getting into real estate. You will absolutely love it if you haven't read it yet. Make sure you go and check that out. All right, so the second segment of the podcast is called Just Jay. I'm basically just going to give you a brief synopsis of what happened my last week, and I'll give you some highlights, not just a highlight, but a lesson that I've learned from this past week, from something that I've done, something I watched, or something that I heard. And particularly last week, we have on the Air Force Base. I live and work on an Air Force base in the UK right now. I'm actively in the Air Force at the present moment for a little bit longer. And so I'm on base, and I decided to go to the USO a couple of days ago. I walked into the USO. I'm absolutely alone. My wife and my kids were at home. I have two daughters, one 9 and one 16. Both of them were at home, and my wife. And I went to the USO so I could do some pitching on a couple of podcasts outside of my own, and I was doing some work. And I stayed in there for about maybe 4 to 5 hours. And the entire time I was just working on my own. I had some chill hop blasting inside of my ears, completely relaxed and completely at peace with myself. And I haven't done that in such a long time. I mean, it had been so long, but it was so good to do that. And I didn't realize how therapeutic alone time can be until I journaled about it after I came home from the USO. I journal quite frequently. It is also a very therapeutic thing that I do, and I think it helps me a lot. But I journaled about it, and I just realized how good it was for me just to spend a little bit of time alone, because I'm always either at work or else I'm at home. And of course, there's always somebody at home with me or somebody at work with me. So just to be able to have a few minutes alone was completely transformative and very rejuvenating, especially if you're an introvert. So journaling, like I said, has been one of those things that has completely shifted my life and raised my awareness for the better. So if you want a journaling template, if you want to know all the ins and outs of how I journal, of what it is I'm looking to do while I'm journaling, how journaling has impacted me and my awareness and my mental health journey and my overall well-being, feel free to head on over to www.thepurposepad.com. Check out one of my journaling templates, absolutely free, on me. You can thank me later. All right, guys, now we're going to dive right into the very third segment. This segment is called Living on Purpose. Essentially, what this segment is all about is giving you the tools, the tricks, the life hacks, all the things that you'll need to be able to find your purpose and to be able to use your purpose, especially for anybody that's going through any form of transition right now. You're going through a big change where you're looking for that clarity and that direction that you need to really give you comfort in your period of change, to give you that North Star, so to speak, that compass, to give you that GPS system to know this is where I'm going, and not only that this is where I'm going, but I know that where I'm headed is the right way, and that it's going to take me down a path that's going to nourish me, that's going to be full of meaning for me and the legacy that I want to leave behind, and that is going to be in perfect alignment with my purpose. This is that section that's going to give you all the tools that you need to be able to pull that out. This is going to be the meat of the show, all right? So today I'm going to be talking specifically about why I decided to start a podcast. Obviously, this is the very first episode. This is just an introduction to the podcast, what it's all about, and again, why I decided to start the podcast. So a few years ago, today is February 15th, 2024. So a few years ago would have been 2022. I decided to write a book. And I spent so many hours reading different academic journals and reading my Bible, praying about it, watching sermons. I had a few phone calls with some experts in this specific field. And after compiling so much information, I decided, hey, this information is so impactful, it's so rich, it's so full of benefits. I need to be able to get this information out to other people, because I know if it does even half of what it did for me, it would be so benevolent and so beneficial for so many other people in the world. So I had to put it together in a book. It started out as a course, and then it kind of transitioned into all these other things, and in the end, it ended up being a book. So I wrote this book. It took me a little while, but once it got finished, I decided, all right, let me go ahead and put an offer behind the book. And I spent maybe 3 weeks writing this webinar. And this webinar was called Niche Your Purpose. It was going to be targeting entrepreneurs, online coaches, consultants, and course creators, and basically helping them to come up with what their niche should be, and helping them to align their niche in their business with what their purpose is for being here on the earth. And so I put this webinar together. It took me so long to put the webinar together. It took me so much effort. And then I remember I decided, okay, let me get some reps in practicing this webinar, because I don't want to get in front of an audience, whether it's 2 people or 200 people, and then be doing this webinar for the first time, right? Let me get some reps in. Let me practice a little bit. So I went out to my garage and I started practicing the webinar. Now, this slideshow was probably like 98 slides, maybe even over 100, but it was long. I got to maybe slide 20, and let me tell you, I felt so defeated. I'm talking about I was completely in over my head, or at least that's how I felt. And it was so deflating. Like, I remember sitting there and my throat was completely killing me. My voice was so hoarse. I kept fumbling over every single word. I had to go back over and over and over again. And then all these negative thoughts started running into my mind. Who do you think you are to talk to other people about purpose? You can't even speak for 15 minutes without having cotton mouth, without being Mr. Fumbly over every single word, without stuttering, without drawing a blank. And I had all these negative thoughts, but they were so strong. They were so deeply embedded into my mind that it affected me. And I got up from my computer, closed the laptop. I never practiced that webinar again. Again, this was maybe 2 years ago. Never practiced the webinar again. The first time I even opened it back up was a few days ago. But I remember feeling so defeated, and it was recommended to me, you probably should start a podcast. And I said, why would I start a podcast? I couldn't even do a webinar alone in my garage with a script without feeling completely deflated. And it was recommended to me, you should start the podcast so you can have target practice. Any professional athlete, any high level musician, anybody who is an expert in their craft has spent countless hours practicing, has put the time into their craft, that is required for them to reach new heights and become better. You have to put the time in, Jay. You can't expect to be at a level 10 starting right off the bat. And here's the significance in that. We all have limiting beliefs, right? Whether you recognize it or not. But here's the thing about it. I spent 2 years on a book, which is a good book, by the way. You should go to the website and check it out. Shameless plug. www.thepurposepad.com. Check out the book. It's called How to Live Longer, Healthier, and Wealthier. But I spent this time putting this book together, getting it edited, doing the cover. And it's a really good book. And it's going to help millions. But I spent 2 years on the book. I spent 2 years not practicing. I spent 2 years doing something else when I could have been doing this the entire 2 years. I could have been putting the time into my craft. But when I was a kid, I had a really, really, really bad stuttering problem. The kids used to tease me about it. So anything around the topic of speaking is extremely sensitive for me. And that's why those thoughts that were coming to my mind were so strong. They impacted me in such a negative way because of how I feel about speaking and because of my past and my limiting beliefs around my skill and ability to articulate my thoughts in a way so that other people can understand what I'm saying. And my limiting beliefs impacted me so much that it made me sit on a gold mine for 2 years. So the first reason why I'm starting this podcast is, number one, so I can get target practice. But the target practice is really more so me actively pursuing the destruction of my limiting beliefs, which is what I really want you guys to understand. Number one, you need to identify what your limiting beliefs are. Number two, you need to actively pursue the destruction of every single one of your limiting beliefs. Because every one of your limiting beliefs are false. They're not real. They're not true. They have no correlation with who it is that you truly are and are capable of. So that's number one. This podcast is my basketball court with nobody else on it for me to get on the court and put up some shots and destroy my limiting beliefs. You in your life need to figure out what your limiting beliefs are. Get on the basketball court, put some reps up, because that's how you destroy your limiting beliefs. Exposure. Here's the second reason why I'm starting the podcast. So I was at work a couple of weeks ago and I was talking to one of my colleagues, and he and I were talking about the future. When you're in the military, one of the biggest discussions that you'll have with people is, what do you plan on doing when you get out? So me and him are talking about that particular discussion. And he asked me, what do you plan on doing when you get out? So I start telling him, and I have a very clear, very concise, very specific vision for my life, and it's full of detail. So I'm telling him everything. I want these youth centers. I'm going to write 2 more books. They're both going to be New York Times bestseller. I'm going to be speaking all over the country. I'm going to have a consultancy firm. I'm going to be in real estate. I'm going to be a stock, like all these things. I'm going to live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to have other homes in Florida. I'm telling him all these details that I have inside of my vision book. He's looking at me like, man, and I'm telling him, hey, the book is already finished. I just finished publishing it. I'm doing the audiobook right now. It should be out, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling him all these things, and he's looking at me like jaw to the floor. And then he goes to this mode of silence. And I'm like, are you okay? And he said, yeah. And he says, I just had my daughter a couple of weeks ago, and I feel so compelled. I feel so strongly that I need to do something for her. I need to have the same level of clarity that you just explained to me for my life. Not just for me and my wife, but for my newborn daughter. And then he says, but I have no idea what I want to do. More specifically, he had no idea what it is he was brought here to this earth to fulfill. But he looked at me with such a strong feeling of helplessness. And I felt for him. And that is the second reason why I wanted to start this podcast. Purpose can be a complex topic. And sometimes seeing things as it relates to ourselves makes things even more difficult. Sometimes it's a lot easier to be able to see other people's problems, to be able to have the answer or the solution to somebody else's situation. Because looking from the outside in provides you a different perspective where you're not connected to the situation. And that makes it a lot easier for us to be able to see the reality of the situation. But when we're talking about ourselves, when we're looking from the inside out, it just makes things difficult. And when you're talking about a subject that can already be complex, then you double the difficulty. So my entire book is around the premise of accomplishing your purpose, of figuring out what your purpose is, and then stepping into embodying that purpose. So with this podcast, we're going to do one specific thing. We're going to make purpose possible. I'm going to be giving everything that I know away in this podcast because I want to make purpose possible for as many people as possible, so I can help other people increase their well-being, so they can have that sense of clarity, so they can have that sense of direction, so they can have that North Star, so they can know why they were brought here to this earth, so they can live a life full of meaning, full of joy, full of happiness, so they can do what they love, so they can get paid doing it, so they can know how to transition out of a career that they may not enjoy, but that may be paying well. How do you transition from a career of one that pays well, but stresses you out because you don't want to be there, because you know you're destined to be doing something else, but you have no idea what it is you're supposed to be doing, where you're supposed to be, and most importantly, who it is that you're supposed to become before you leave this earth. I am making purpose possible for as many people as possible. And that includes you that's listening to this podcast right now. So the two reasons why I'm starting this podcast again, one is because I need to destroy my limiting beliefs and increase my skill of being able to speak and articulate my thoughts so that other people can understand what it is that I have inside of my mind, especially the things that God has placed there that need to go out into the world to other people so that they can be blessed as well. And then the second reason is because I am making purpose possible for you, because I know it can be a difficult thing. All right, good people, this is the fourth segment of the podcast. This segment is called Chasing Challenges. Challenges are the one thing that forces growth for us. Challenges are kind of like pressure creators or pressure cookers, where it creates the very pressure that we need to be able to grow become better and become the people that we are capable of becoming. So every week when I make a podcast, I'm going to be issuing out a challenge to my listeners that can push you, that can challenge you to do something that you may not normally do, but may very well be the thing that is going to push you and propel you towards your destiny. So this week, the challenge is this. Do you know what to do? Do you know what your purpose is right now? My challenge to you is to do one thing this week that is going to move you towards a purposeful life, that will move you towards the discovery of your purpose and the embodiment of who it is that you were meant to be. Now, if you have no idea where to start, here's 3 things that you can do. All right, number 1, you can start journaling. Number 2, you can take a purpose assessment. If you don't know where to get one at, you can go to my website, www.thepurposepad.com, and check mine out. It's completely free. The third thing you can do is you can discover what your passions are and what your gifts are. If you're like, I have no idea how to journal, I have no idea how to find my passions or my gifts, or you may even already have an idea of what your passions and your gifts are right now, but you may not be using them. You may not be 100% certain of what they are. Just go ahead and start with the assessment. Take the purpose assessment, figure out where you are on your journey at this very moment, because awareness is the very first step in transformation. So go ahead, take the purpose assessment, head over to the website, and watch how that can be the very first thing in your journey that's going to move you in the direction of your destiny. All right, so in closing, that was today's podcast. A couple of notes for events that's going to be coming up. I'm going to be giving a Purpose Masterclass every single week, so you can register for that on the website. Also, I'm creating a 7-day challenge right now. It's going to be called Limitless Living. Name may change, but as of right now, it's called Limitless Living 7-day challenge to discover what your current purpose is and unlock unlimited potential so that you can live without limits. Be looking out for that. That's going to be on the website as well. Next week, I'll be talking about the dangers of creating a vision for your life without knowing what your purpose is first. So, in summary for today's episode, stay on the right side of the spectrum. Remember that many things in life are not black and white, but most things actually exist on a spectrum. So you may not be doing the right thing, and you may be thinking, well, at least I'm not doing the wrong thing. Remember, if you're not doing the right thing, you are passively empowering the wrong things, which are all your limitations. So stay on the right side of the spectrum so that you don't passively empower your limitations. And get you some alone time, man. Spend some time alone. Reflect. Do some assessing of yourself. Figure out where you need to grow. Figure out where your shortcomings may be. Or just spend some alone time and work. Spend some alone time and meditate maybe. But get you some alone time so you can rejuvenate, so you can replenish. And break those limiting beliefs. Shed those limiting beliefs. Destroy those limiting beliefs. Do the very thing that you are terrified of doing. Before I recorded this podcast, I was honestly terrified of doing it. But guess what? I'm going to do it anyway. Then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it over and over and over again until I become an excellent speaker, and I can articulate my thoughts about purpose and meaning and career transitions and personal transformation and high performance and achievement in such a way that anybody and everybody can hear what I'm saying and understand my words, not just understand them, but be moved to action, be moved to practically be forced to become a better version of themselves and a better version of who they are. And most importantly, to their purpose, so they can be able to enjoy all the benefits that come along with knowing what your purpose is and living in that purpose every single day. And lastly, start something. Start something this week that's going to move you toward your purpose. If you have no idea what to do, go and take the purpose assessment. Even if you already know, you feel like you know what your purpose is, you feel like you know what your passions and your gifts are, you feel like you already know what your calling is, go and check out that purpose assessment and see if you are where you really think you are. Go take that assessment. Check out the website, man. Again, thank everybody for tuning in. If you're tuning into this, then you must be really loyal, because I'm guessing you probably found me way down my journey and decided to go back to the beginning and see, hey, how long has this guy been doing this? What is he really about? And you actually listen to this entire episode, then again, you must really be a loyal, I don't want to say fan. You are a really loyal partner and friend along this journey of mine. So thank you for being here. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. As always, my name is Jay Purpose. Make sure you guys live on purpose and not default. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Project. We hope this episode provided value for you and moved you one step closer to a purpose-driven life. Be sure to check out the show notes for any important links and resources for your pursuit toward a life full of meaning. One thing that would help the show tremendously is to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review, letting Jay and everyone else know what you think of the show, so we can better serve you. And if there's anybody that you know who could benefit from this podcast, make sure to give them a nudge in our direction. As always, live on purpose, not default. We'll see you next time.